You also just can't send money to any random 0x address. I've seen every single possible way you can lose money in crypto. Nonprofits have shown me the lights. They've shown me how you can screw up crypto.
Well, did you see Passport got acquired by Holonym, and now they're starting Human.tech to compete with WorldCoin? It's kind of crazy.
That's amazing. That's amazing, because that's what we need. We need more competition. We need more people building. Like right now, identity is completely dominated by governments. They have such a monopoly that if you don't have a government issued ID, it's like you're not even human for most of the world. That's a monopoly. This is the moment where bad actors are getting weeded out and real builders can shine. Maybe I'm just like too optimistic here, but like people are sick of the meme coins. Finally, people might be interested in real projects that are doing real things. The person is kind of a friend of a friend is letting us stay at their house. And while we're staying there, Coinbase support called them and said,
hey, your funds are at risk in Coinbase. You need to move them to a backup wallet. Register your backup wallet by putting your keys in this website. You know, like put your here. Okay, now send your money in. Send your money into that wallet from Coinbase. Oh, you did that? Oh, great. Do you have other wallets at risk? Okay, why don't you? Oh, you have a MetaMask? Oh, send the money there too. Yeah, get the money out of the MetaMask. That's not safe. Put it in your cold storage that you just registered with us.
and of course she lost all of her money, and it's like, how do you prevent that?
It's been really cool to see the progress, and QAK is just one of those things you can tell that it's got heat. So I'm excited to follow its evolution, especially.
I can't wait to hear about Allo.Capital, man. Let's break it down. Come on.
Okay. Oh man, am I a podcast host now, or am I a guest? Welcome to the Summoning Allo.Capital podcast, powered by the Green Pill Network. If you're just joining us, we are doing seasons on the Green Pill Network podcast. And this season, we are summoning Allo.Capital, a new spin out from Gitcoin that's designed to build the capital allocation layer of the tokenized internet. I think that there's big upside here. Capital allocation is a multi-trillion-dollar design space, and it's something that we do every day. Every time you buy a coffee, you are allocating capital. But at scale, VCs, governments, and NGOs and DAOs all have to allocate capital. And I think that that Web3 is going to reinvent how we allocate capital. So we're threading a through line, partnering with builders, researchers, and funders to figure out what on-chain capital allocation looks like and building it on-chain. If you want to learn more, you can visit our website at Allo.Capital, where you can download the Allo books for free, play with some of our dApps, join the Telegram, or participate in the DAO design contest. So that's what we're doing on the Allo.Capital podcast. And today I've got Griff Green on the podcast. I'm excited to have him. I think that I've done a couple Green Pill episodes with him, but just a quick overview. He's an early Ethereum contributor, played a key role in the DAO, and helped coordinate the response after the 2016 hack. Is the co-founder of Giveth, QAK, dApp Node, Pairwise, Give Praise, General Magic, and just a friend of the podcast, a friend that I respect immensely, having founded Giveth, and our journeys with Gitcoin and Giveth have intersected with each other over the years. And so it's fun to talk to Griff about the design of Allo.Capital. We sort of ebb and flow between Allo.Capital and Giveth and Gitcoin in this episode, and him, myself, and my co-host Rena, who is a co-founder of Allo.Capital and my co-host for many episodes on this season, talk just kind of like play jazz on the design space of capital allocation and building in Web3. So I think that this is a really great episode to talk about QAK and what Griff has been up to, but also to play jazz on on-chain capital allocation. So I think you're going to enjoy it. All right, I'm here with my co-founder and co-host, Rena. Hi, Rena.
Hi, how are ya?
And we've got Griff Green, the original OG Giveth and the DAO contributor. Griff, how you doing? Welcome back to the podcast.
GM. Yeah, thanks for having me.
How many times have we done a podcast together? 3, 4?
At least 3. I want to say more. I'm sure that we've done it before, but
yeah. Well, I think it's fun to have Gitcoin and Giveth sort of like spiral around each other and build the regen space. And to have known you for all these years. And you're just so full of energy and like sincere belief that we can use this technology for good. So I'm excited to dive into all the latest stuff you've been doing. So maybe tee us off with just like what's going on in the Giveth world.
Man, there's so much going on. It's insane. I would say that we've pared, like in general, the Giveth Galaxy has pared down into four main verticals. Of course, Giveth and donations. So Giveth, is running QF rounds. We just did kind of a Valentine's Day themed loving on public goods round for
I saw that.
100K, which was awesome. We raised a 50 plus K in donations on top of it, still current, going through the results there. But actually behind the scenes, we're building a lot of interesting things in AI. We're going to build like an AI agent plugin for Eliza that curates Giveth's data. So it's really easy for any AI agent building on Eliza to donate to projects on Giveth. And we're really looking into how can we build almost like an AI agent cause focused launch pad on top of Giveth. This has always been kind of the North Star like goal, and maybe not North Star metric, but our goal that we've always been working towards is like how do we build economies around causes at first I was thinking nonprofits, that nonprofits could straight up tokenize, but it's really hard to launch a token. And
I've
the
heard.
yeah. The idea of a nonprofit pulling it off is like they're good at what they're good at. So, but AI agents seem to be pretty good at launching tokens. So maybe there's something there. So we're definitely going to get like bonding curves collateralized by Give on top of Giveth, and probably AI agent run. But we're in deep research phase and just kind of hacking around building things, making sure that it'll be useful. I actually took every single person in the Giveth Galaxy and said, you have to build an AI agent. You got 2 months, go. So 55 people working across our four main projects. They're all building AI agents in teams of two. So we'll end up with 20 plus AI agents. So it's interesting. They're all going to be crap, honestly. They're POCs, nothing crazy, but just to get our hands dirty so that after Denver, we can really look at this and pick a direction for a couple of things.
So I want to talk about AI agents later, and let's be honest, there's plenty of podcast content about AI agents. We'll come
Oh,
back to it.
yeah.
The four pillars of Giveth are donations, and then AI agents, and then what were the other two?
Well, really the four pillars, or what I was trying to say is products within the Giveth
Oh,
Galaxy
okay.
are like Giveth is donation platform, and hopefully launchpad for nonprofit focused tokens. And then Pairwise, which is voting tooling that makes voting super simple. And then we have QAK, which is also, it's kind of going to be the infrastructure that we use to make the token launchpad on top of Giveth. And unicorn.eth, which is our like really simple user experience for Web3, trying to build a onboarding any community to a curated Web3 experience that makes it safe and simple so you can't get hacked and people don't lose money. Because I'm just so sick of people losing money. It just kills me every day. Someone sends money to the right address on the wrong chain or clicks a phishing link, and every day you hear about it. And so trying to build some infrastructure to stop that.
That's cool. So, just to play it back for the audience, it sounds like the four products that are focused in 2025 in the Giveth ecosystem are Giveth, and then Pairwise, and then QAC, and then Unicorn.
Yep.
Are those the four?
Yep. Those are our guys.
Okay.
Before we dive deep into those, Griff, I'm curious just from, I guess, from a personal level, where do you place those bets? Like, where did those bets come from? You mentioned as well, like these tools being useful. It sounds like you've got a little bit of a Papa Bear thing going on. Where did these come from, and like what kind of brought you to that conviction and placing those bets for 2025 and beyond?
These are just the biggest problems that I'm running into. That my goal has always been, how do we build something that's better than governments? What do we got to do? And I really believe that there is value in public goods, and business models can't capture it, but maybe economic models can. And I think Ethereum and Bitcoin and basically every blockchain out there has created public infrastructure that anyone can use by not by donations or taxes, but by issuing a token and creating demand for that token. So my goal is, hey, how do we make that happen for Meat Space? How is it that if someone wants to build roads in Costa Rica, or if they want to take care of the homeless in Denver, they can create a token, issue a token, and create demand for that token. So all of these things are kind of pieces and parts of that. For public goods, I think it's important to be able to scale and have a large space of voting past Dunbar number. And so with Pairwise, we're kind of tackling the voting angle. We're playing with liquid democracy. We're playing with pairwise assessment, trying to figure out how can we make it so that 10,000 people can determine where funds should go across a wide variety of projects without having to collapse into some kind of delegate system where there's really 30 people deciding. Because that's what most of DAO governance has done. They kind of,
No.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of cheating, you know.
Yep.
I've been into DAOs for as long as anyone, basically, in the Ethereum space, and we've cheated. I don't like it. I think that we can build tools that don't need to cheat, that we can actually scale the Dunbar number and have collective decision making. So there's two directions for that. One is pairwise, where we're really focused on liquid democracy right now. That's kind of the current experiment. We deployed that for Optimism several months ago, and now we're looking to deploy it for some other ecosystems. Can't really talk about everything yet, but once they all get locked down, then I'm really excited to explode liquid democracy into the scene. And the other direction is AI agents, just like assimilating data from different stakeholders and kind of weighting that data based off of their stakeholder reputation. Or, we can actually, I think with AI agents, we can do more complex token reputation games, reputation. And like, you can also have, of course, like a transferable token that has value that also can have some stake, like capital injection weight. But yeah, anyway, so that's like one important piece, and that's why I work on Pairwise, because we need to be able to scale past Dunbar number for collective decision making. And then Unicorn is just fixing UX and making it safe again. Like I feel like crypto, maybe I shouldn't say again, crypto's never been safe. And so Unicorn is really like building this effectively a curated space, a walled garden, where you as someone who enters a community, you can't if you click a phishing link, it will not work. Your wallet that you are given is only able to access the applications that the community says are okay. And you also just can't send money to any random 0x address. We just, I've, working at Giveth, I've seen every single possible way you could lose money in crypto. Nonprofits have shown me the light. They've shown me how you can screw up crypto. And so I'm just sick of watching someone win our QF round and then click a phishing link and lose all their money the next day. So we're building, this is a need. I can't actually onboard normal people to these tools for meat space, like, like something better than governments, if they can't even just hold their tokens for a second. So that's why Unicorn is really important, unicorn.eth. And actually, we're the infrastructure for ETH Denver. So if you're going to ETH Denver and you created a ticket, you got a ticket, you used our infrastructure. And the onboarding, like, I don't know if you've been to ETH Denver in the past, but it was a mess. And we really fixed it and we made it simple. And there's going to be all sorts of cool activations in there. But probably the most complicated vertical and the most interesting one, it's like, the tokenomics heavy one, the math heavy one is QAK and the Quadratic Accelerator, like, the future of tokenization. Very
And
inspired by your work, honestly, Owaki, like, because Quadratic Funding is a big piece of inspiration here. But we
yeah,
basically take Quadratic Funding and make it so that instead of donating to a project, you're buying their utility token. And
yeah.
that's really exciting.
So just to wrap this section on like all the different like bets that you're making, I think it's incredible how many different fronts you're pushing, Griff. And there's things I want to add about all of them. And but I think that we should go deep on QAC now. So if I were to tee you off to give us a tour of QAC, I think the last episode that you did with me on the podcast was describing QAC in theory and why it's such a good idea. And now you've actually done a pilot of it. And so together, I guess there's like a body of work where you can draw a line between those two things. But let's quickly revisit the theory of QAC, and then I want to hear about the pilot. So, as I understand it, QAC is kind of quadratic funding, which, by the way, thank you for the nice thing you said about us, but it's Vitalik and Glenn's and Zoe's idea. We're just like an implementer of it, like you. Yeah, QAC is quadratic funding plus bonding curves plus tokenization of the project. And through that, you create like a better token launch pad than was ever possible. Did I get that mostly right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's it's there's a lot of mechanisms that we're adding. First, one of the biggest problems is pumped up fun and all these other token launchpad is that scammers are using them like crazy. And it's hard to like filter from the scams to the actual projects. And you just never know. Whereas with QAC, we take something that works all over the crypto space, which is applying for grants. You know, we actually do this as a part of an ecosystem growth tooling. So for Giveth, the ecosystem it will grow is the Giveth ecosystem. But right now we're focused on the Polygon ecosystem. So in Polygon, they gave us, we're kind of like just like actually Gitcoin is, we're a grants allocator. So they're giving us 3 million pull so that we can distribute to teams to so that they can launch in the Polygon ecosystem and build in the Polygon ecosystem. So we do a grant application. For the first round, we had 200 applications. We chose the best 8. We choose them based off of like it's not like a grant for anything. It's really about are you building something with utility? Like is the token going to be a utility token? Is there some reason someone needs this token? Right? So that's going to weed out a lot of projects, honestly. And then the other thing is like, are you small enough where this makes sense? If you already have VC funding, this probably isn't the best project for you because we're launching. It's like a launch pad. You start with a pretty small market cap. So we look at all the applications, pick the best ones that come in. And so there's this nice filter where only great projects are allowed to participate. So, every project in QAC is good. It's not like Pump Fun where you're like, man, which one of these 1,000 projects that launched today are actually worth a damn? So that's the first mechanism, like just application process.
Mhm.
Second mechanism, augmented bonding curves. So, just like actually, we've been working on augmented bonding curves since, man, 2018, I think. Michael Zargam, Block Science, and we built this whole system around basically what FriendTech and Pump Fun and all these guys are using, which is a bonding curve with mint and burn fees. And but what we include that they don't include is vesting, because we're actually launching for legitimate projects, not like all these pump and dump scams where, even the president of Argentina somehow got involved with a token that had a bunch of tokens that were liquid and not vested, and then something bad happened, right? You can just prevent that out front. Not hard. You just lock the tokens, lock some large percentage of tokens that the team gets so that their incentives are aligned. So we do that. We take the grant money from Polygon. We create the token the project actually, we pass the money to the project. The project launches their own token and it's attached to this bonding curve. And what's interesting is that the token that's collateralizing the bonding curve is the ecosystem token. So instead of where most grants, you send the ecosystem token, in this case, Pull, like the former Matic, to a project, and then they have to sell it on the open market, creating a token pressure, sell pressure. Here, we lock it in a bonding curve, and if you want to buy tokens in that team, you have to use Pull to actually buy the token, so it creates token demand. It's the only grant program I know that actually creates demand for the ecosystem token. And then instead of just letting anyone buy and the first one in gets the best price, what we do is we run kind of like a quadratic funding round, call it a QAC round, because instead of donating to the team, you're buying the team's tokens. And then for the period of the QAC round, everyone gets the same price. It's an actual fair launch. It's like we're doing this for legitimate small to medium sized enterprises that want to have a utility token. So anyone who puts in money, they get locked tokens, they have to actually be real community members. They're not, crazy speculators that are just trying to gamble on it. And what's interesting here is now the community that is willing to accept locked tokens, they get a really good price on that token. It's like we're talking market caps around like $1 to $2 to $3 million, depending on how many people participate. And then after that, the matching pool that would normally be allocated to the teams and they just sell it, right? Here, the matching pool actually creates a liquidity pool on the open market. And that's when the pump and dump speculators come in at a much higher price than the community and the team. The team got free tokens, of course, that are still collateralized by the grant. Now the pump and dump gamblers, crazy speculators, they come in and they're going wild, and they know that all the other tokens that exist are locked. So whatever price the token is listed at when it hits the decentralized exchange can't go lower. So huge opportunity for speculators to play. And when they're playing, and in the QAC round, the team has a revenue stream because as tokens are minted or burned in the bonding curve, it creates revenue for the team. So they get all these trading fees. So it's a little bit complicated for sure, but it really solves a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the current launchpad scene. It's for real projects and real teams that are trying to do cool things. In the first season, we had X23 AI, which is building really great tooling for DAOs, uh, AIs to analyze different proposals. I literally use this every day. I use it every day.
Let's go.
Citizen Wallet, their region wallet, they had a really nice activation in ECC last year. Prismo's and L2, they launched their gas token. We have some really great projects. So
So in a sec, I want to go into the initial pilot that you ran and the projects
yeah.
and the high level stats, all that kind of stuff. But like just to back up for a second, it feels like you've kind of built this like really well balanced machine where all the different parts work together. And I mean, like from a mechanism perspective, you're taking bonding curves and quadratic funding and combining them, and then reverse engineering problems with the current launchpad scene and kind of bringing that into your mechanism design brain. From a incentive alignment perspective, you found a way to align the incentives of the existing quadratic funding ecosystems, which are like, by the way, from Gitcoin, I know that these it's just basically an ecosystem wants to attract projects to grow its ecosystem. Those projects themselves want capital and acceleration, and then the contributors of that ecosystem contribute to those projects. You're balancing the incentives of all three of those actors with elegant mechanism design. And then the new additive part is the tokenization at the end of the quadratic funding round where the QF contributions go into the bonding curve. And what I love is the chronologicalness of like the contributors get in before like the pump and dump people in the launch pad. So there's a chronology of the incentives as they evolve over time. And I guess like when I try to shape rotate this in my brain, I just see a really well elegantly designed mechanism design. And so I just wanted to sort of focus that and sort of the theory and the balanced incentives before we actually get into the pilot and hear how that went. So that's what I see. I don't know if you have any response to that, Griff. And then I'd love to go to Rena.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. It's really about making sure that like the problem with QF is it relies quadratic funding as it is it relies on altruism. That's not bad inherently, but in crypto it's so much nicer when you participate in a project. In fact, I think we both noticed that when there are some kind of token incentives put on top of quadratic funding, it's so powerful, we have to protect against it. And instead, with QAC, we lean into it. It's like everyone's giving an airdrop, you could say, to their donors because they're not donors. They're actually like owners. They become part of that economy. But yeah, Rena, what are you thinking?
I absolutely love hearing about all this. I was fortunate enough to hear your talk in Bangkok. That was what, November now?
Mhm.
And of course, I affectionately call it Quack in my head because it sounds funnier. Um,
Totally.
I'm excited to hear more about the pilot, but given where we're at Gitcoin and what Kevin and I are looking to the future for Allo, I think I'm just selfishly curious. were there any false starts? Like, you've got a really big net that you were casting in terms of the altruism, like the incentivization, and then, of course, the mechanics of it all. And I do think it's a really elegant solution. And if you had any other, was there a plan B? Was there another version of what you thought, hey, maybe this could solve this problem before you got to the QAC?
There's a lot of problems. Like
I feel you. Okay, fair.
QAC is not a solved solution. I mean, there's the original version of Giveth, the very first version of Giveth, we're talking 2016, 2017. When you donated to a project, you got a token back of that project. Now, then we had gas issues with crypto
Mhm.
fees. It became too expensive. There was no liquidity for those tokens. There was no value. So we cut it, and then eventually we actually replaced it with the Give token. And then the Give token, we were giving everybody who donated a little bit of Give. And this was supposed to like eventually turn into what we were creating. So we've had lots of false starts on this. It's been one false start after another every year.
Can
Um,
I
yeah.
one framework that I use to think about this, just so that I don't get depressed about how many problems there are, is I have this philosophy of Protopia, which is basically like if you're building a movement, a lot of people mistake me as like a utopian builder, which is some far off, like good future. What I actually don't think of myself as a utopian. I think of myself as a protopian, which just means every epoch is better than the last. Every week needs to be better than the last. Every quarter needs to be better than the last. And I think that one of the things I see when I follow your work, Griff, is that you just keep hammering away and like every year is better than the previous year. And so the problems that you had in 2017 have informed the product investments that you're making in 2020, which then inform the product like the next cycle. Like, do you consider yourself protopian in that same way?
100%. I don't think there is a such thing as utopia, but we can always make things better.
Yeah, and one of the things I like about that when you're trying to build a social movement is that if you were trying to build a utopian movement, you would always have to trust the leader. Oh, yes, we're on the right path. We're going there. We're going to the promised land. Whereas Protopia, it's like I can look at the conditions around me and say, yes, we're making the epistemology of who you have to trust in order to be Protopian is way different. And I can see from the outside that the Giveth galaxy is always improving. And I sometimes I look at Gitcoin and I think it's improving, and sometimes it's two steps backwards and one step forwards instead of the other way,
But
but,
that's
like,
what
uh
showing up is. You gotta continue showing up even when it's the bad days, and that's how you incrementally improve, right? Like, even
yeah.
when you take those steps back, and yes, I know sometimes it happens at Gitcoin, but I do think that we've, over the last couple of years, have made those like, the evolution that you're doing, Griff, I think is really commendable because I think that there's a version of shipping fast and shipping well, but without the evolution. Like, it's kind of like talking without saying anything or listening without hearing. And I think some people will ship faster in favor of even evolving.
I want to say, like, Gitcoin has made some huge progress in the last couple of months. I'm so happy with how things are going. You guys, the forum, like, honestly, the last couple of years before the last few months, I've just been like, when token utility, when token utility, when token utility.
Yeah.
And now with
Ye-
its acquisition, and all this other cool stuff that you guys have in the works right now, it's like, yes, yes, we're doing it.
Nice.
GTC means something again.
Have you been saying anything on the forum? I don't think I've caught
And
anything.
talking so much
I
shit. It's
so we're
it's
kind of
angry as
crisscrossing.
well too.
Sorry,
Uh,
Milwaukee. I went off,
ju
but thank you,
just to
Griff.
just to zoom us out, the podcast host in me has to say that my scaffold for this episode is, well, let's talk about Griff stuff, then we'll tell you a little bit about Gitcoin and where we're going, and then we'll play jazz on top of it, and we've already cut across, Waki's agenda, and we're already doing the third part. But I wanna talk about we'll get to that, I promise, but, I wanna talk about the QAK pilot results. So just,
Okay.
like, bring us there. What are the projects you're excited about? What are the statistics? What did you learn? You've gone from a priori theory into empirical data here, and I wanna pull that out of you. That's so exciting to me.
Absolutely. The biggest challenge we had is that honestly, we launched on Polygon ZK EVM, which
Right.
is a very the there's not it's very raw change. We even
ZK is like, they're EVM compatible? Do you have to change your contracts for it? And there's like a but is there
we
what's the complications with that?
We didn't have to change our contracts, but we did discover a lot of problems with that network specifically. We even actually broke the chain with one of our transactions. Um,
Nice. It
the
wasn't enough that you broke Ethereum with the Dahlia to break a new chain, Griff, when you go That's how you know
Yeah.
you're in the frontier.
Yeah, you know, it's always fun when you find out you get censored by a centralized sequencer, it's like, "Oh, wait, maybe we should decentralize these sequencers," you know? They actually thought we were attacking the network because, we made a complicated transaction that, you know I'll be honest, I think this Polygon ZKVM was really pushing hard to get something out, in this race against DK Sync. And they both kind of came out at the same time, and they both had a lot of improvements to make on the product. And so ZKVM is coming has come a long way in the last couple of years, but it's still pretty raw. And honestly, the adoption is really poor. And so we launched some tokens there, and the bridging was expensive. They haven't even integrated blobs yet on Polygon ZKVM, so the transactions were expensive, and we just didn't see enough adoption on that network. So we actually worked with Polygon, and we're moving everything to Polygon POS. So we yeah, we even almost launched a token and had to unlaunch it because we were just at the last minute we were able to make this deal. So what happened in that happened so far, and it was all very successful, honestly. We were able to create $8 million worth of TVL on Polygon ZKEVM, which is pretty insane considering that you look on DeFi Llama, there's only 14 million TVL. So really insane adoption and progress. We had we basically had 3 teams that kind of, outperformed the rest in the Quadratic Funding round. It was, Zaid Finance, which is kind of a perps platform on top it's like an aggregated, perps platform that has a lot of AI embedded into it. That's super cool. Also X23 AI and Prismo. Those 3 teams, really killed it on the QAK round and ended up getting the largest matching pools. And altogether, we brought a lot of demand for the poll token, somewhere around, I think it was like 130,000 poll were purchased to use in QAC, which is pretty encouraging considering that no poll were actually spent on in the grant system. So it's just pure demand there, which is really cool. Yeah, but we haven't gotten to that last liquidity moment because now we're rebuilding the infrastructure over on Polygon. So we have to relaunch all the bonding curves, put everything back. It's all good because at this point every token is locked, invested on ZKVM, and this was kind of the like last moment decision to be like, okay, we're not going to launch the tokens on ZKVM because if we do, they'll be stuck there. Like there'll be random tokens everywhere, be locked in some DeFi protocol. Who knows what could happen? So now we're migrating everybody over, and we're talking maybe like 3 or 4. Basically, in March or early April, we'll actually launch the tokens alongside also starting our season 2. I mean, the tokens are launched. People have tokens. In fact, we have a token gated chat room that if you were a participant in QAC and you supported a project, you can get into that chat room. No one else can. So that's like this default utility that comes with every project. So there's some interesting like communities forming there, but because the tokens aren't liquid yet and on the market, we haven't seen how that's going to work, which I think is one of the most important pieces. But because we have this time, we can do the underground marketing. We can make sure that people have time to get their bots set up and do the whole game.
Wow, isn't building on blockchains incredible? Just like there's so much that it's like walking into a rake that hits you in the face all the time. But it's worth it because it's a really amazing design space.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what you can do with digital scarcity. I feel like there's so much opportunity here, and there's so many interesting things that you can do for monetization of like public goods and monetization of like just things that were normally qualitative. Value that is normally qualitative can be quantified with blockchain tech, with this digital scarcity. And it's really on us just to figure out the cool ways to do it in a way where it spins out into more positive sum games and more value being created.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Uh, Rena, we're new to doing podcasts together. Do you want to ask a question?
I'm like so afraid to take things off the rails. I'm very much just like, maybe I'll just be quiet and see where Walkie goes with this.
Okay.
No, this is great. Thank you for walking us through all of this, Griff. And it's fantastic just to hear that the pilot's gone well. What are you most looking forward to for the second cohort?
I just love seeing these cool projects come in. I'm excited to see like even just the wide breadth of like what topics are interesting. I assume there's going to be a lot of AI focused projects. We already had 3 AI projects in the last cohort that were like really legit, and I'm excited to see who comes through this next round. Applications are open right now, and they're only open until March 14th. So make sure like you can go to QACC.giveth.io and you can apply right there. Or you can go to the Polygon Village like grant applications and you can find us. We're a official grant capital allocator there. So yeah, I'm excited to see what projects come through. I'm also excited to see how we can like make it easier for projects to do this work. One of the biggest lessons that we had from the last project is that these small teams that are early stage, it's hard to launch a token. I'm hoping that we can pull off some kind of AI marketing bot that like can just be the right hand man of whoever is taking on the marketing for these teams because it's such a crowded space. It's so loud. It's so noisy. How do you build a community? How do you make sure that you're able to be responsive to the people that are asking you questions and that you can make an attractive presentation to the world about why your token means something compared to the other 1,000 tokens that were launched today on Pump Fund, you know? Um, so we're really we gotta help the teams figure out their marketing, and we have a few ideas on how to do that, but we'll have to see how it all turns out.
I mean, it feels like you've kind of not stumbled into because you're very deliberate about this, but like you stumbled into this design space where you found this perfectly balanced incentive machine, but like there's externalities to it, which is like, and I know because like with quadratic funding, I know the externalities. It's civil resistance, and you have to keep raising matching funds to like that's the prerequisites to building the engine. And now there's like it feels like there's this other like wrench in it, which is that the projects have to go through this one-way door of launching a token along with it, and that's like the other wrinkle. And I guess I got to ask, like, as a mechanism designer and as a person who's trying to build a network, and I've been fatigued by the things that, like, the some of the things in my network, but like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, if you launch the token, like, is it all good? Was it all worth it once you go through it? Is it like too early to say?
For me, it's the game. That's the only game. I My goal, how do we create like value for public goods? It's just business models aren't the answer. The only game I know is creating some kind of digital scarcity and then creating demand for that. Whether it's an NFT, a token, or even just like a lot of money is raised by donated art or banquets or Girl Scout cookies or whatever, right? And that's how funds get in. Even tax deductions, right? Like making deals with people that with governments to get like a tax deduction play. We I think that for me, what I'm really excited about is how do we make it so that an entrepreneur that wants to help the homeless in Denver has the same profit potential as a tech startup founder. And the only way I can see that happening is with tokenization. It's with this economic system. They get so many tokens, shares in their company, and they can create value and build an economy around the value they create. They can scale if they succeed in Denver, helping the homeless in Denver. They can go to
But
San Francisco, they can go to LA, they can build their token economy and create more and more demand. And I think those network effects, that juice is worth the squeeze, you know? Um, that's for sure.
Now, Griff, I've actually got what may seem unrelated in terms of that question, and I can come back around in a second. But given the projects that you saw in the first epoch, and then, of course, what happens in the second, it sounds like you're actually kind of poised to see some of the trends. I think that there is a little bit of mix of qualitative and quantitative data there because some of it feels reactionary. and part to the market. And part two of that question is talking about that scaling for these projects that are doing it. It's something we see at Gitcoin. Like while AI and helping with the token or the marketing will help in the short term, how are you navigating the challenges of educating these people and teaching them how to fish in the long term? I know that's, and again, it's more so not to be spicy or any meat. Like, we just see it at Gitcoin all the time. Education versus support is very, very tricky, especially for young people who want just altruistically to help.
It's a very difficult problem. This is why I'm wondering, like, what is the right direction
Mm.
for Giveth and these kinds of things? Is tokenizing nonprofits the right direction? I'm not so sure anymore. I've been on that train for about 7 years, and then the last year and a half, I'm, like, really trying to think how else can it be done? So, because it's not even education, it's like you need to be a serious marketer, you know? You really need if you wanna launch a token, at least in 2024, 2025, you need to be really in touch with the marketing tricks and tips of crypto Twitter and the crypto scene. And it's that's not a good place to be if you're a nonprofit, honestly. You want to just focus on your work. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Honestly, I think that there is something there where AI focused DAOs have or AI powered DAOs have like a good opportunity, but it's way too early to say how that's gonna look like or
Mm.
what structure it's gonna be. So it's just this year is research. It's talking to the right people, trying different experiments. Hopefully other people are trying experiments to learn from everybody.
Love that.
Love it.
Anything else to say about QAC? Like, I want to unwind and like summarize QAC in Giveth, and then I want to riff a little bit on some Gitcoin stuff, and we can play jazz across it. So, any final things to say about QAC or Giveth? Like, zoom us back out.
Yeah, I think QAC, just like all of my projects, this is like its first big experiment but I think QAC has a lot of legs because not only does it support projects and support like the community and buying into projects and buying their utility tokens, but also really supports ecosystems. Ecosystems like L2s especially are always in a race for TVL. And how do you launch more native tokens on chain? And QAC is just a TVL machine. And it really can build communities and it builds sticky communities, which is really, really interesting to a lot of L2s. So I fully expect QAC to start being we're really focused on Polygon and getting it right there. But eventually it's a tool that's going to be useful for every L2 and even like large ecosystems like Aave, Uniswap. Like if they want token demand, and people launching tokens to support their project and network effects of their project, I think QAC is going to be a hard tool to beat.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on the first pilot. I will be cheering you on, and looking forward to having you back to talk about future pilots and what's going on in the Giveth galaxy in a few months. So, it's been really cool to see the progress. And QAC is just one of those things you can tell that it's got heat. So, I'm
Yeah.
excited to follow its evolution, especially.
I can't wait to hear about Allo.Capital, man. Let's break it down. Come on.
Okay. Um. Oh man, Am I a podcast host now, or am I a
I
guest?
was just, and it was such a like a low key, like, sure, let me talk about it. You were so excited there, Griffin. And Kevin's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I suppose if you really
No,
want
I'm
me
excited,
to."
but I'm just like, do I interview myself here or
I'll interview
um
you. God, tell me
yeah,
about
no.
tell me
No,
about
let's
Allo.Capital.
just riff. Let's just pretend it's the Griff riff like you and Austin Griffith back in the day. Gitcoin's going multi-mechanism, and insofar as we've tried to pivot away from just quadratic funding, we've experimented with some things that were adjacent to quadratic funding, things like retro funding and, now deep funding. We've kind of got our fingers in the pie of a little bit, along with a lot of other great people. But I think that we kind of recognized over the last year or so that the way that we're approaching it is all wrong. As I was studying the category of capital allocation, I realized there are things that are just like they're not grants, and Gitcoin like knows grants because Gitcoin is grants, and we sell grants for growth. And like there are things outside of that that we were really excited about. And the other thing is that Gitcoin's like it started as a company and now it's a DAO, but it's always had like it's been hard to dissolve the company like things that it did because I mean there's a long story there, but like one of the implications of it is that we weren't really good about like building software in a modular way. Like we still had the monolith like software vibes and like as I saw like what you guys were doing and what One Hive is doing with conviction voting and what retro funding is doing and EAS and civil resistance tools. Like I just wanted to like really double down on modularity. And to do that, you have to be really network first and like be able to work with third party builders and other modules. And so I think Allo.Capital is our attempt at a new structure that will really allow us to go like multi-mechanism in a network first way. And so, you know, I think our North Star is going to be summon the capital allocation layer of the tokenized internet. So basically, grants are a subset of capital allocation, and that's where we started. We have $67 million worth of traction so far in how much funding we've distributed. But what can we learn from our Gitcoin days and accelerate builders towards building the next great funding tool is kind of the design space that we're exploring right now.
Yes.
And I'll just say that we're summoning the DAO sometime in the next couple quarters. So like it's very in tote. Like I don't have a lot of tangible like I don't have a product to show you yet, but we will soon. And then Rena's my co-founder on it. And so Rena, I'd love to pass the mic over to you before Griff responds and just say, for like 2 minutes, what do you think this thing is?
Oh, where are the edges of that? Thank you, Iwaki. Yeah, I think that your response was directly in relation to Gitcoin, and I think I can maybe even broaden it out a little bit more. The the capital allocation design space is largely uncharted. Griff, I think you out of anybody knows that. And while we're focusing right now on what financial allocation looks like, we know that information is a form of capital. We know that social proof is a form of capital. So there's all these fantastic ways to
Capital.
explore that. And part of our reasoning for spinning this out from Gitcoin specifically was, I mean, from me being on both sides of the table, we've got something that's really starting to solidify and gel at Gitcoin. And to be able to cowboy as well as create solid, stable software don't mix well together. Can we do that with the programs? Absolutely. And that's what we are doing. And I'm very excited about the shape that that's taking. And what we're doing with Allo.Capital is allowing Gitcoin to continue to make the revenue and the token utility without completely messing up client relations as well as the roadmap. And I'm really excited about what we're doing. We've got a couple of little goodies that are going to come up in the next few weeks on how we're structuring the organization and teaching people. And this is kind of why I asked you that question as well, like teaching people how to design the capital allocation space and figuring out how to best enable them to take their problems and figure out the right funding mechanisms to solve them. Because what we've seen, especially when we focus too much on grants, is that people are kind of like, it's quadratic funding for everything. And you're like, why? And they're like, well, I don't know. Use quadratic funding. And you're like, that's not what's going to be useful. So again, I suppose just to wrap it up, like those are the things that I'm most excited about and broader from specifically why we're different from Gitcoin. I think there's a lot more nuance in what we're doing with the future of Allo.Capital.
Yeah, one thing I heard you mention is that, it's not just financial capital that you're allocating. Like, are you guys looking at other like reputation and other kinds of tooling for different things? Like Allo Capital is not just about allocating money.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I mean, like I'll answer like philosophically and then I'll actually like answer tangibly. But like I think a lot of these things are like bridges between financial capital and other types of capital. Like basically what QAK is doing is like it's providing financial capital to people who have the intellectual capital of launching I don't know, would you call it like an AI agent platform or something like that? Like
Mhm.
a lot of these things are bridges between different types of capital. With respect to your actual question about reputation, fuck yes. There's going to be lots of really nuanced reputation systems that you can build. Like when you have a whitelist of addresses or addresses that hold a certain POAP, you can yeet them money in a way that like you couldn't have if you didn't have that on-chain data about their reputation. And so, yeah, the answer is hell yes on reputation.
Yeah, man, it's been so hard in the identity and reputation space, like in crypto.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, did you see Passport got acquired by Holonym and now is starting Human.tech to compete with WorldCoin? It's kind of crazy.
that's amazing. That's amazing because that's what we need. we need more competition. We need more people building. Like right now, identity is completely got dominated by governments. They have such a monopoly that if you don't have a government issued ID, it's like you're not even human for most of the world. You know, I mean, that's a monopoly. If yeah, so if we can build something as an alternative to that, like that's a core pillar that we need if we're going to decentralize the system, you know? So a long time ago, Jordi Bellina and I kind of like, we're talking like after the DAO hack and all those things, we were like, okay, what do we need to do? We need decentralized internet. Okay, that's already figured out. Lots of people do mesh nets. Guifi.net specifically in Barcelona is like one of the largest mesh nets in the world. We don't have to build that. Great, you know? Then it was like, okay, how do we now we need decentralized hardware. People need to be able to run servers in their own home, so that if someone wants to take down Ethereum, you know, it's not just all on AWS. So that's why we started DAppNode, and DAppNode is everywhere, right? And they were like, okay, now we need to decentralize identity. And we started IDEM3, and that pivoted to Polygon ID, which is now Pravado. And Pravado is like, you know, mostly just doing like, which is really cool. It's doing really cool stuff. It's like, you know, sort of like, and we used it in QAK actually. It's sort of like ZK ID. It's like powered. It's like you do KYC with your government issued passport or whatever, and you can prove that you're not from one of the countries that's sanctioned, so you can have a higher limit in participating in QAC. But you know, you still rely on that government issued ID. How do we get to that human ID?
So
You know?
So one of the things that I've been pilled on recently, but let's just skip the Gitcoin part. Let's just get to the riff part. All right, I'm giving up my podcast host privileges, and we're just gonna riff from here. But one of the things I've been getting into really recently is this idea of assembly theory, which is basically this idea that things are just assembled from each other. And of course, we have this philosophy in Web3 of money Legos like Uniswap and Gitcoin Passport and Allo protocol and everything. And one of the things I think I respect the most about you, Griff, is that different like modules have different what's called complexity indexes, which is the number of things that they're assembled from. And QAC is like probably like the king potato of like being assembled by all these different like QF, and even that's like consumed by many different things. But there's also people who are building the primitives themselves that are going to be the high leverage points that have like lower complexity indexes. And I think we're gonna need people who are like good up and down the stack. And I know like the single Legos, the stuff with the assembly index of one, the complexity index of one, like you've built a bunch of those, but now you're kind of building something that's like more powerful because it has a higher complexity index higher up in the stack. I mean, how do you think about where to invest? Like, do you invest in single Legos or like entire like ornate structures, cathedrals built out of Legos?
Right now I invest in things that we can learn from, you know?
Yeah. So it just
You
depends on where there's like alpha to be found by building that Lego.
Yeah, yeah, and you just gotta get something quick out that people can use, solves the
Yeah.
problem,
That
and,
reminds
you
me,
know
push it
Fail
faster.
quickly.
Push
yeah,
it faster.
I
yeah,
can't I
exact
can't go any faster. I can't. I'm already like I've already slowed down the speed of light um in terms of how fast I'm going. So yeah,
Look at Griff. Griff's just rowing and Rena's
you gotta
providing.
paddle
So
faster, ship.
Griff, will you
one of the
adopt
things
me?
um we
Sure.
have shared people and ideas a lot between Gitcoin and Giveth, but no, you can't go over there, Rena. The one of the things we actually like, speaking of shipping faster, we have like really turned up the clock speed. With Allo.Capital, we're making like many more smaller bets and like trying to be like much more iterative about it, as opposed to making like longer bets that take multiple months. And that's part of Protopia that like the iterative approach that I really think of is like how do we turn up the clock speed so that we can learn
Well,
faster.
and I
Um,
loved your effort to actually allow other people to play with the token design and the like
yeah.
mechanic design on the forum. It was super cool.
So you're
Yeah, I
talking
want to
about
play.
the Allo.Capital DAO design contest. We've got about 20 submissions so far of people who are telling us what they think the allocation of Allo should be. And by the way, like the whole like token launch thing is such an insider game where there's this like these like
It's
token
gross.
design consultants that like in secret will design your token. And I think the inversion of that by just like allowing the community to design it for us has been a lot of fun. And we're probably going to learn stuff that we just never would have thought of if we hadn't done it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of fun for you because you can read them. I have to herd said cats, but Definitely a ton of great things that are coming out. And like, I mean, when you're trying to build an org and trying to take care of the people in the existing org, like it's really hard to look up. Like Owaki will send me tweets and things, but I can't tell you how often. I'm probably about a week behind the news cycle because like you got a lot to do, right? And one thing I think you might be interested as well, Griff, is like it's more than even just the tokenomics. Like it's about how we assemble as a community and like
How do we
the,
allocate capital? How do we
how we
coordinate?
right within our own community, right? Like how do we ship well, quick, fast, whatever. I used the same words there a few times, but our community can build these things for us in the way that we're setting up our tools to give them compensation and having them weigh in on what makes sense to
Yeah.
them and then coordinating all that to output what might
I
be
like that because
a
we
good
can
V0.
what I really like about that is dog fooding our own software. Like, we should build not a payroll system because that's, a
No,
company
no,
thing,
no.
but, like, we should
No,
build
no.
a capital allocation operating system that we can use to route people towards the highest leverage things for the network emergently. Like, Griff, what is have you guys thought about this with Give Economy and, like, Giveth ecosystem at all? Like, do you guys just, like, 1099 a bunch of people or, like, do you guys have, ways that you pay them using that are, like, more DAO native?
Oh man, we tried so many things. We tried
Yeah,
so many things. But in the end, we ended up defaulting back to the way the rest of the world has always done things.
Mhm.
yeah.
People like salaries, they just
The
want
form factor of a salary and benefits is, like, really fucking good because you can focus on your work. You don't have to focus on, like, putting food on the table or, like, getting health insurance, right? Like, there's
exactly.
there's things that we're learning that are actually good about the system that has evolved along the way, but I still think we can do better if we maybe, like, modularize it and recompose it in a DAO native way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's just so hard, right? Because there's humans involved, and humans have needs that are different. Like but we tried it all. I mean, we were doing Coordinate before Coordinate existed. We had
Yeah.
done praise, we've done different give power, like you get
Just
stake.
keep in mind, I know what these are, but some of the audience might not know. They're like gift circles and, kind of like a kudos jar
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, it's kinda
um
like so Coordinate is like, "Hey, everybody, you get so many points, like, who did the best," right? And
gift
then
circles, yeah.
basically, it's a give circle. It's like a spreadsheet, and everyone gives people a score. That way we're doing that. We called it Reward DAO in, like, 2017,
Right.
2018. We also did, like, a wall of fame where you would just make a quick video that said what you did, and then it was, like actually, Edu from Dapnode, who's now working with Polygon and everything, the founder of Dapnode. We first hired him, and he built this, like, wall of fame where you would just make a video, and it was just like a bunch of videos of people saying what they did in the Giveth
Mm.
Galaxy, and then they would
These
get
things
some
are
kind
like part mechanism, part ritual,
yeah,
part
Mhm.
coordination technology. It's kinda cool to see it integrated.
yeah. Praise, I really love praise. It's kind of like
Race brace.
tipping, but like praise is like you just say, "Hey,
Yeah.
praise Kevin and Reina for like bringing me onto the podcast and letting me
Yeah.
talk about all the crazy things that we're doing in Giveth." And then we do like at the end of a period, you'd have certain people would go in and they would give each thing a score. So it's kind of like you get that acknowledgement and that boost. And I've seen it work so well where you get this like boost of like, wow, I feel appreciated, gratitude. This is like so community building without the quantification, right? You just get that pure love. And then on the second side, you get the quantification at the end so you can figure out what was really valuable. And at the end, you could even have feedback cycles and stuff. But in the end, it's too prescriptive, like it didn't really get adoption anywhere. So yeah, that's why it's not a pillar this year. It's so hard to kill it because I love it so much. I mean, it's not dead, it's still maintained. We still use it at Giveth, but we're not trying to get all of the communities to use it, which
It's
is
not ritualistic. Yeah.
the praise ritual is good. And you see these things all over the place without the quantification at the end. It's the quantification at the end that was the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as you said. So
Yeah.
yeah, we tried all these things, and in the end, we just defaulted. And then we also tried open salaries where everyone knows what everyone's getting paid. Oh God, no, don't do it. It's not
Yeah.
worth it. It's not worth it. Like conflicts and challenges, and then good people are underpaid and bad people are overpaid. Like, someone in San Francisco gets this much more than if you're in Caracas, Venezuela, and it's like, well, why? It's like, oh, it's just so hard, you know? So
I feel like one of the things that I just want to pull out of our conversation, and by the way, I always like enjoy riffing with you, Griff, because we have similar scars. Sometimes it's completely different, but like similar war stories. And the thing I want to pull out of this is like reality is messy, and sometimes your perfect mechanism design cannot account for it. And I feel like I'm constantly ebb and flowing between like optimism and holy shit, I got punched in the face by reality again, adversarial thinking, what went wrong, and then just iterating forward. And that's why I'm a protopian, is just like you have to ship stuff. And this is why when like the fucking crypto literati comes after me for like being pragmatic about something and not being dogmatic about something, I'm just like, you don't know because like you're not fucking shipping stuff. Like, like it just looks different when you're actually trying to build momentum. And I don't know, how do you think about the trade-off between pragmatism and like being dogmatic around your values and like holding firm to like a North Star? Do you ebb and flow also?
absolutely. I mean, I've learned so many times over about like, the challenges, the all the trilemmas all over the place.
Yeah.
And what I feel like I haven't learned well enough is, and I try and I tell myself this all the time. It's like actually something from back in my chemical engineering days that they used to say, which is like 2 hours in the library is worth, 2 years in the lab. And just like
Agree.
there's a reason the world works the way it does, you know?
Mhm.
And you gotta pick your battles. Like, I have wasted so much time, just to go back what we were talking about before, trying to figure out how to pay people. And this whole back to just normal salaries or hourly, it was just like one problem that I didn't have to deal with. And
Yeah.
man, that's I feel like the the way you really advance is you just pick your battles. You do what is normal for most things, and you decide to experiment in a place where you got no research, where it's a dark forest and they really don't know what's in there. And then you run in. But if it's a problem that's already been solved, don't why are you trying to solve it again? Uh yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's what it brought to my mind.
It makes me feel better because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. Yeah.
Yeah, you poor thing doing this all by yourself. Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
If only there was someone who could help me. Oh well. I'm just kidding. Rena is the ultimate co-founder and friend in this leg of
yes.
the journey, and I'm so happy to have her allocated to this
Dude,
project.
and that's the other thing that I think I've learned as well. Co-founders, man.
Yeah.
Co-founders. Like QAK, yeah, like I spend as much time there as I can. But like it's Justice and Tam. They have the right incentive alignment. They're going to push it. I'm going to be there to support, but I'm at so many places. Unicorn.eth is Gardner and Russell, man. These guys are heroes. These co-founders are heroes, and they put their whole focus into it in a way that I can't. I just can't. I'm like a delegate for Arbitrum and on the Security Council. I'm a
Yeah.
delegate.
You're like me. You're like an octopus where you have like 8 tentacles into a bunch of different pies. And I mean, I think it's great to be that like above the playing field and seeing all the different pieces moving together. But you need people who are like in the thick of it to drive the things forward on those
Every
individual
day,
things. Yeah.
prioritizing, making sure that we don't miss deadlines, that like things that if things fall through the cracks, they're there to catch it.
Yeah.
Team
You
like
guys are so cute. Look at you two co-founder guys. It's just so nice to I mean, your energy around your team is fantastic, Griff. And I think that there's something to be said. Owaki and I get into this a bit, like to be able to have those moments where you can come up with these ideas and knowing that your team is executing on some of them, I think is really important because going back to the initial point, like, we don't need to reinvent the fucking wheel every time we wanna pay somebody, and I think Web3 has just an abundance of it, and trimming it down to, like, just use the normal words and do the normal systems makes such a world of difference at the end of the day.
so true. It's so
I
So
true.
mean, I'm here
trad.
against my own will, that's why I'm off camera, I can't blink twice if I'm being held against my will. So, I mean, I love working with Iwaki.
Yeah, we'll fix that when we make the AI copy of you.
Sucks. This was an AI agent test, I'm pretty sure.
What if yeah, yeah, we're testing it out, before we have, an full-on AI guest.
Exactly.
Well, I guess we're 10 minutes over, and I promise not to go that much further over, so we should, like let's zoom out. What didn't I ask you that you want to say, Griff?
Man, I feel like right now we're in an interesting, just like on the commentary of Web3 in general today, it's like
Mm.
in a really ugly place. Meme
Mm.
coins, rug pulling. There's just it's just gross
Someone
out there.
tricked the president of Argentina into launching a meme coin, you know.
Oh, oh. And then Trump launches Millennia and or Melania or whatever, and it's just like the whole scene is like so bad right now. And I feel like there's such opportunity because the tech's never been better. You can build some really cool things that are super easy to use. The UX on Polymarket is out of control. It's so great. You know, like there we can actually go reach the masses now. And we just haven't I'm just so excited to see what it is that captures people's attention in this cycle. I mean, I hope that we are still in this cycle, but I feel like we're in the pit of
Please don't send us into the bear. Not
I
again.
know.
Not for another 3
Too
years.
early. It's too early.
I
Um,
yeah,
but I mean, if we do, the fact that we've got capital formation on Giveth through QAK and capital allocation through Allo.Capital, our network is, hopefully it's not as lonely in the bear and it's not as great in the like the amplitude cycles will like mute over time, I think.
I think that this is the moment where bad actors are getting weeded out and real builders can shine. Maybe I'm just like too optimistic here, but like people are sick of the meme coins. Finally, people might be interested in real projects that are doing real things. So
Yeah.
I feel like we have a big opportunity. And then with AI just making the UX on top of account abstraction even better. Like, I mean, how many projects have you seen where you can just type something into
I mean, yeah, just
ChatGPT?
talking to a chatbot and it does all the on-chain stuff for you is pretty great.
We are so
But
close.
on the I sent a tweet the other day about the meme coin stuff where I feel like the like there's this difference between like revealed preferences and stated preferences, and I feel like the stated preferences on crypto Twitter are like no more meme coins, but the revealed preferences of the capital is like I'm gonna fucking ape this meme coin. And so I'm hopeful, but I'm only cautiously optimistic about that.
Gambling is always something that's there. But do you remember when people used to launch smart contracts without audits? You know? You remember that? Like, that was happening all the time. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people there were bugs, there were hacks, da da da. And all of a sudden, the community is like, no, we need to see an audit. Is it CerTic certified? And everything in DeFi had that.
Great
I,
example.
I feel like we're going to have this, we're just about to have this moment where the community, they still want to gamble, but there needs to be some fucking lockups, lock up your token. It's not
Yeah.
hard, you know?
Hide your
And
kids, hide your wives, hide your tokens.
yeah, just fucking just like it's so simple. And just like some of these things where as a culture, I think we're even the gambler degen guys, they're ready to just like be like, okay, I'm not aping into that anymore because you're not following the protocol. I mean, there are these cultural protocols already. Like I actually got caught. I was just experimenting with creator.bid, which is like an AI agent launchpad. I was just trying a bunch of them out. That one you have to launch a token, and I, without thinking, used my Griff.eth address, which is like, I mean,
Griff,
Oh, I didn't think
come
about
on.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm on a multi-sig with Vitalik. It's like
Yeah.
it's a really good, it's like a very rich address. So it's like all of a sudden people are like, oh my god, Griff.eth is launching a meme coin, and they just aped in. I'm like, what the heck just happened? It was like within 10 minutes, I sold some of it. I put like $200 in, and I sold a quarter of it for $1,000. And then I just got raided because they're like, you can't do that. You can't. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know the culture of token launchpad meme AI coins, which apparently is if you are the dev, which apparently I'm the dev, I just click some buttons. You are not allowed to sell, in the early
It's
stages.
15 minutes after creating the token that you think.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
mean, fair.
I didn't even attach the Twitter yet. I was just wanted to see how the Twitter algo was gonna like expand,
Oh,
and so, but then, I learned there's a strong culture, and it was a mistake on my part because I didn't know the culture and I just like, just did what I thought was normal. I didn't know. And then, but then I learned the culture. And if there was such an enforcement there, I think we're ready to start having enforcements on the other side where people just know to be legitimate, you have to, you know, do XYZ to make a safe launch. I really hope we're getting there.
Well, hopefully, I mean, this feels like Unicorn.eth is the start of that, and you're gonna get, I mean, wholehearted support from us over here at Gitcoin and Allo. We take all this very seriously as well, and I'm tired of explaining to friends and family members that I don't sell purses out of the back of a Russian van. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you sell capital allocation tool now.
out of the
Yeah.
back of a minivan, a
I
walkie
still can't
minivan.
I can't explain to anyone who's like Gen X and above what I do. They're like, "You sell capital what? To who?" But yeah, for anyone millennial or less, I feel like they'll understand like, "Oh, we're sending money across the internet and we're just doing it. We're funding what matters." So,
Yes.
um, that's the bridge, I think that we're trying to build. And one of the things I'll say that, like, Griff, you've always been good at, that I admire a lot is, like, you're going out into people who are not crypto native and being an evangelist for these tools, and your dream has always been to bring nonprofits on chain and help them raise more money. And, I think, like, just how far you've taken that with Unicorn.eth, has been neat to see, and I hope that you're gonna bring a lot of traditional impact in nonprofits on chain, especially as funding dries up for them elsewhere. Maybe, crypto can be a lifeline for a lot of these organizations.
I think so. I think so. I think so. And, it's not just those organizations, it's any organization that just needs normal people to participate in their Web3 strategy without fear of clicking a phishing link or accidentally like sending money to the wrong chain on the, sorry, to the right address on the wrong chain or
Yeah.
whatever million ways you can make these mistakes in crypto. Just like simple guardrails. I really thought that eventually the Web3 space would be made safe without me having to build anything. I don't know why it's been so hard. Either you're a centralized exchange app that's or not, I actually built this, like with Jordy and we built this thing called the Vault. This is one of the first things we built. We built Mini Me token, which was a kind of a DAO token. Then we built the Vault, which is effectively a smart contract wallet with all the bells and whistles, daily limits, dead man switch, just like different things that you could do to protect your money, you know? And, we just let it sit there. No one really used it. We used it. And smart contract wallets kind of like fell out of vogue and now they're back. But I don't see anyone adding daily limits or just little protections. Maybe you're going to move half of your money out of the wallet. How about you have to wait half an hour, you know? Like the person I'm in San Francisco right now, doing this accelerator for Unicorn.eth called Orange DAO. And the person is kind of a friend of a friend is letting us stay at their house. And while we're staying there, Coinbase support
Oh
called
no.
them and said, "Hey, your funds are at risk in Coinbase. You need to move them to a backup wallet. Register your backup wallet by putting your keys in this website. Like put your
Ugh.
here. Okay, now send your money in, send your money into that wallet from Coinbase. Oh, you did that? Oh, great, great. Do you have other wallets at risk? Okay, why don't you, oh, you have a MetaMask? Oh, send the money there too. Yeah, get the money out of the MetaMask. That's not safe. Put in your cold storage that you just registered with us." And of course, she lost all of her money, and it's
Enough.
like, how do you prevent that? We have to give people the tools so that when you're onboarding them, you don't have to like scare them to death about how they could get screwed in every which way. It's just like onboard them into, that's
There's
what.
education, like we said earlier. There's a level of education. I've had friends call me to be like, "So this company called Coinbase called me to ask for my keys. Should I give it to them?" And I was like, "Do you have a Coinbase wallet?" "No." "Okay. Oh God. Okay. I don't even know how to answer this question."
The
But
answer is
people have,
no. Your keys can never go anywhere. They're called private keys for a reason, you know?
I I gotta say, like, one of my learnings is that sovereignty is a journey, not just a destination. And I think we've come to rely on a lot of institutions in the world that may not be there in the future. And it's not just about financial sovereignty, it's about like, social engineering and adversarial thinking, and learning to earn in the internet of jobs as much as it is about keeping your capital once you have it. And so I think surviving in Web3, which I'll call the self-sovereign internet, is a journey, and we've got to bring more people along and educate them. But yeah, there needs to be like better norms or like better, easier ways to get people up to speed. Because if you don't help people develop the antibodies, the viruses are going to pounce, and that's just like the way it works.
I want to challenge that. I think education is a losing game. I've been educating people in crypto forever. Okay. Like, I mean, we're talking 2014. I went into Ecuador and I was giving people Bitcoin in college campuses and telling them how great it was. And I actually helped them back up their wallets. And they called me like in 2000, like 7 years later, and I helped them recover their wallets, you know?
Right.
Because I had their
No,
no.
Well,
was
no,
that
I
like
didn't have
the hey,
like
number one up call? Could you please help me get this money that you
Yeah.
100%, 100% that. Like,
I
oh,
love his point though, Griff, like in terms of how like it might be futile for education. I want to counterpoint just one thing because I think you might have something good on this. If we put in guardrails and tools that people aren't educated on or just use blindly, aren't we no good as Web 2?
no, because you can still have the sovereignty. You just
Mm.
put limits. You know, they can still have their wallet. It's just in the smart contract wallet, there are rules. You can't send more than $100 out of it without a two-factor authentication. You know, you can't send more than half without an hour delay, you know? And you just make those settings like this is how banks work, you know? Like we could go look at how do banks manage things so that they don't get scammed. You know, they put these limits in place. They put these guardrails up because they have risk, you know? We got to give people sovereignty but within guardrails. You know, like that should be your first wallet should be like a guardrail. It's like
Little training wheels, little
you
wallet
shouldn't
training wheels.
you shouldn't start your first vehicle should not be a 747 airplane. Be a tricycle, you know? Be a tricycle. That's where you start. And then eventually you grow into like, yeah, I run my, I use command line to do terminal things with blah, blah, blah. Sure. Cool. You know, but let's give people a tricycle, you know?
Now, I'm gonna continue being spicy though. Does that not take away from sovereignty if somebody decides what that you're getting a tricycle? What if I was like, "Griff, I'm ready for my bike. Let's go." And you're like, "Sorry, it's tricycle time for you, Arena." So this
No, but
conversation's been weird.
here's
You
the
can't
problem.
coerce people. You just gotta, yeah. Go ahead, Griff. I
You're
think you're
you're onboarding people, like, for instance, Gitcoin onboarded half of my friends, honestly. Like, first thing they did was they were like, "Oh, I need to hey, will you" a lot someone asked them, "Hey, will you donate to this project on Gitcoin? Because we need to Sybil attack this thing." But for real, with real people, you know?
let's sweep that under the rug for now. We'll come back to that.
And so what did they do? They had to download a MetaMask wallet, then they had to write down their 12 words, which they didn't do. Then they had to get some crypto somehow, and then they had a 747 wallets just so they could donate $1. You know? What if they could just be onboarded into that tricycle wallet where they just put a credit card in, they get some like a couple bucks in an account that they can't very far. And then for that application, they're safe, you know? If they click a phishing link with that wallet, they can't get they can't get phished. It won't work. It won't let them even connect to a phishing link because Gitcoin has their Gitcoin wallet, and it will only let you connect to Gitcoin and approved applications, you know? And then, oh, you wanna do more with your funds? You can bring it into a different place that has looser restrictions, or you can, move the money out into a MetaMask. Sure. But when you're ready, and I feel like we do too quickly. We onboard people into the 747 and they're not ready to fly, so but you want that they can use that for that one app that you showed them, but then they have too much power, and like if they want that power, go for it. But maybe they don't want that power. Maybe they just like, for instance, the person who was managing my like Airbnb equivalent, she got a grant from Uniswap for doing something cool with an art project, and that's the money that was stolen from her. It's not that's not she doesn't need a MetaMask, you know? And I don't wanna onboard her to a centralized exchange. That's not sovereign, We need something in between, something safe where they still own their money, where no one else has access to their money. But anyway, that's why unicorn.eth is so important to me, because I think it really addresses these problems, but, like, yeah, in the end,
I love it.
So
Oh,
I got a podcast host for a sec.
yep.
It's 7 minutes until the half hour.
Oh,
Let's just keep riffing for another 7 minutes, but I'm gonna call it then.
You've got
So
5 out of me. I need we've we've been on back-to-back
dude,
podcasts.
Griffin is the longest. We did a
I
3-hour
always do
episode
this.
last time we talked, which became kind of canonical for my work, to be honest. Like the whole book that I just wrote on capital allocation mechanisms is like informed a little bit like from that podcast. I was like, wow, this gives me energy to map out this design space. So I'm going to create a bunch of resources for people.
That
Like,
was a really fun podcast. That was really
I
fun.
wanna do a Web 2.5 podcast with you too. I think would be really fun
I mean,
too.
I did the Web 2.5 thing with the first version of Gitcoin. It's not that great. It's a lot of trade-offs.
Well, I mean, but exactly what Griff and I were just talking about, right? Like that the difference between like full sovereignty and Web 2.0 and centralized exchanges and
Yeah.
fees and whatnot. Anyway, come on, podcast host. You were supposed to be podcast hosting.
I just really think is it really not full sovereignty if you can't drive your car off the cliff? You know? That is that like, "No, I've lost my sovereignty
No, it's
with
just
this
the
guardrail."
preference the consumer has on the way in is that they want a car that's safe or they want a tricycle. They're not gonna ask for a 747, A, because they don't have the budget, and B, it's too complicated for them. Like, you just guide them towards the best choice, but, like, they get to make the choice. Actually, another problem with Web3 onboarding right now is that people are onboarded by people who don't have their best interests at heart. They just want them to buy their coin, and we need to have better sources of information and onboarding people who respect the sovereignty of these people and want to create them and not and not dupe them. And I think that that's
Truth of
another like layer to the
reputation.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with
I
you.
onboarding
And
just
by the
takes
way,
so
you can
long.
buy my book on DAOs, how to DAO.xyz, which will onboard you into the space. Uh, sorry, Griff, if you're going to sell your thing, go ahead.
Oh, no, what was I gonna shill? I don't know. I got too
Oh,
much.
I was just joking because I was showing my thing and I wanted to transition to you, but
No,
go
I
ahead.
think the How to DAO book is a really good push. Actually, you know, the crazy thing is your books have such great penetration to people who wanna learn more about what is like, in this Airbnb, like, this girl who was fished, she has your How to DAO book on her
Oh
table.
No.
What?
no.
I kid you not.
Did she
I
read
couldn't
it? Now I'm
believe
going to
it.
feel bad that we didn't have an anti-phishing thing like this
No,
chapter
no, it's
zero.
it wouldn't have mattered, man. It was too late. She was onboarded into there, and it would have happened no matter what you do, you know? It's like, ah, that's the thing. I feel like, but it's amazing how important and valuable your work is when you're pushing it out in different mediums that people actually have access to, and it's heroic, man. It's heroic. I wish I had more time to tell. Like, thank you for having me on this podcast so that I can say the random things that I've learned and express it because I don't feel like I take enough time to distill the learnings or distill the things and get it distribute that information that which is something you really excel at. And it's a
Thanks, man.
it's a beautiful thing to see.
Well, like you, I represent a network, and so, the Gitcoin, Green Pill, Allo.Capital networks are doing a lot of the work there, and I just got to make sure that they get credit for doing a lot of that stuff, and I'll be the one who sends the tweet at the end, which means that I will get the credit and the blame as we're doing things,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
uh,
you officially run Shelling Point all the way, right? Like, you are the Shelling Point, so that's your conference, right? I assume you do
the
that.
funny thing about that is that people are asking me the status of their applications to Selling Point, and I'm like, I do not know. I'm not even on that team. I just tweet
You
about it, like,
you are the Shelling Point, man.
yeah, we are. So, yeah, Rena actually, one of her groniest things is when people kiss my asses at conferences. And so I should actually make every podcast guest say something like that to me so that the whole everyone can just hear Rena groan in that
He makes me
dynamic.
stand beside him while he's signing books. Like he makes me. Like I'll have things to do and he'll be like, "You need to stand beside me while I sign these books."
Oh,
And then
she's bitching at
he
me for something internal. I'll be like, next time I'm gonna make you watch people asking me to sign these books.
Kiss the ring. Kiss the ring.
So it's just a fun, dark dynamic that we have from trying to make these things actually work.
Yeah.
Um but the thing I wanted to say to you, Griff, is like, I think that you're like a chaos magician also, and you've got so many fingers and pies. And like, I really appreciate that we've always tried to build the regen movement and build this stuff together. And it's always been about like the purpose together. And like in any alternative universe that it wasn't me and you or it wasn't Web3, like I think Gitcoin and Giveth would have been like truly competitors that like hate each other's guts. And I just like feel the opposite of that way towards Giveth. So like, let's do a token
Same.
swap. Let's build our tech together. Let's build our social layer together.
he's
It's
asking
really
you to
cool.
marry him.
I was
I
trying
mean,
to be
that's
cool
all
about
it
it.
is.
Thanks,
Token
Rena.
slots are totally winning, man. It's insane.
You could be
No,
polyamorous with token swaps. We've got other DAOs we do token swaps with too.
Oh
You know,
my.
of course.
Radical, Allo.Capital, and Gitcoin are doing a token swap to create a 3-3 between them. Like, actually, how do you architect the Giveth Galaxy so that all the projects have aligned incentives with each other? Do they all get tokens and then like swap them with each other, or are you guys not really there yet?
I mean, the nice thing is that almost none of our things are profitable, so there's nothing to share. Uh,
You share governance rights.
Yeah. I mean, there's things that are valuable. The Give token is like very liquid and has a good market. It's like it's real money. But like so what I've done internally is like General Magic is the for-profit arm, you could say. I wouldn't say it's super profitable at all, but it's becoming more of a venture studio where Pairwise, Unicorn, .eth and QAK are kind of spinning out, and it is a holding company that holds those shares, similar to
Mm.
what it seems like Gitcoin has done with Passport and is doing with all of the. It's almost like Gitcoin is also becoming kind of a venture studio, and I
Yeah, it's
think
like a DAO DAOs kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's on the to-do list, okay? It's on the roadmap. We're gonna do like some kind of we gotta figure out some kind of token swap with Give tokens and shares of General Magic because General Magic is a legal entity, you know? So it's like, how do we do that? I mean, Giveth has some legal entities, but it's kind of more nebulous like that, where it has a
I know.
501(c)(3)
Yeah.
angle and it has a Swiss association, but like, where is the ownership there? Whereas General Magic is like, this is a legal entity, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so
That was
we
smart to not make your venture studio be a DAO, so it could actually be functional at building software.
Yeah, luckily I started it a little later than you, so
Yeah, I was naive and young about. Well, I mean, we learned a lot of things, but I think it's going to turn out good in the end.
dude, DAOs are so hard, you know? It's just so
Oh, harsh.
like it's like we gotta be able to do this, you know? I don't
Someone should
know
write a
how.
book about how to DAO.
Well, and that's the thing. 2 hours in the library reading how to DAO will inform a lot, will save you from a
Ooh,
lot of
we've brought it
mistakes.
back. We've
Yeah,
brought it back to the quote from earlier. What was it? 2 hours in the library will save you
3
2 hours
years
years
in
of
the lab, 2 years in the lab,
laboratory.
yeah.
years in the
Learn from my
oh,
mistakes. Don't launch a DAO like Gitcoin in 2021.
exactly. I mean, you'll and launch it differently. That's the thing. There's lots of ways to launch a DAO these days,
This is
and
actually one thing about Allo.Capital. Like, I kind of feel like I get a redo
yeah.
on like launching this with 2025 era DAO primitives. And like Gitcoin's by no means like a lost cause or anything,
No,
but
not
like
at
it's just
all.
grown into this like more enterprise focused software thing. And whereas I'm more like a chaos magician, like that likes to be in the frontier. But I get to like have this blue ocean to totally draw like redesign things with 2025. And now what we know, we got almost 25 DAO design proposals of people proposing like futurarchy and like conviction voting and retro funding for our DAO. So I'm like excited to install those things at like the root layer of our operating system, and like dog food allocation as we build Allo. Use Allo to build Allo.
I'm so sorry. I don't think we got our pairwise one in for liquid democracy as another
You could
mechanism.
just get it
Get
by
it
the end of
in.
the week.
Yeah, get it
The,
in.
the deadlines
Mm.
the deadline's just so that we can slide in your DMs and be like, hey, the deadline is now.
Yeah,
Like
pretty much.
yesterday
That's how
is
you
it.
herd cats, is that you tell them, "All right, darlings, I have to go make sure that this entire venture stays legal." Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
I'm
will keep
so
you posted after that.
I'm so
All right. Well,
excited for liquid
I enjoyed
democracy.
this conversation so much.
Yeah.
Congrats on all
Thanks.
the progress with
Griff,
QAC,
you're fantastic,
Griff,
man. Thank you.
and Rena. Let's go faster, and I'll talk to everyone soon. Sure.
I
Bye. All right, we just heard from Griff and Rena. I'm excited about talking to Griff because of all the amazing work that he's done with QAC, and I just admire the Giveth ecosystem and everything that's coming out of that ecosystem. Thanks for listening to the Summoning Allo.Capital podcast powered by the Green Pill Network. This podcast features the people who are building the capital allocation layer of the tokenized internet. But disclaimer, this podcast is for informative purposes only and is not financial advice. Do your own research. Do not make any financial decisions based off of these posts. And in addition, I own crypto assets like ETH, DAI, USDC, and GTC. Thanks again, Griff, for joining the podcast. While you're here, might as well make an offering to our algorithmic overlords. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so that we can share the story of summoning Allo.Capital with everyone. Peace and love. I will see you next time. Bye.